All right, friends, I am going to be completely vulnerable with everyone in this video. If you want to hear one of the most vulnerable stories that you'll ever hear out of a preacher, then you're going to want to stay and listen to the whole thing. So many of you know the story about how I used to be a criminal and a drug dealer and weapons trafficker and all these type of things, and how I died. The demons came for me, but Jesus resurrected me. And if you don't know that story and you want to hear that story, you can just go to my channel and you'll be able to find it. Now, the one thing that people assume is they assume that I was just kind of over it after that, you know, as far as the world goes. And the reality is this, is I was completely healed of addiction to drugs and alcohol. I have not done drugs since that time, and that was 26 years ago. And, but I will say this, is that it was really just the beginning of my addiction. So what tends to happen a lot of times for people is when they hang up their addiction is they just find another addiction. And that is certainly what happened to me. And it took me a very long time to recognize it, to admit it, and to embrace the changes that I needed to make. So here is the story, and you're gonna wanna hear the entire thing. So if you're watching today and this is the kind of thing you're looking for, inspiration and just to know that God is for you, he's not against you, and he will walk this out with you, I want you to subscribe and follow, because there is much more coming. So following my drug addiction, I became addicted to food. And as much as I would like to say it didn't happen, it definitely happened. It happened before I even knew it. When I was resurrected by Christ and I was healed of my drug addiction, I weighed about probably 230, 240, something like that. And I was muscular. I lifted weights all the time. I was always on the go. And of course, I was addicted to amphetamine, so that kept you kind of slim. But when I started to eat all the time, it just took over before I knew what even happened. And before I knew it, I was 820 pounds. So let's talk about that. I don't know if you realize how big 820 pounds is. It is massive. It is massive. I could not, things I couldn't do. I couldn't put my own shoes on. I couldn't put my own socks on. I couldn't dress myself. I'm happy to say that I could still use the bathroom by myself. I could still shower by myself. I'm not going to get into the details of what kind of aerobics I had to go through to do that, but it was very quickly coming to an end. And as a matter of fact, I believe that I was probably weeks, months, maybe even hours from dying. I literally was eating myself to death. You know, why a wild part of it is this, is that I remember watching that show on A&E, I think it is, and, you know, My 600-Pound Life. You know, I would be watching it and I'd be crying because I knew I needed to make a change in my life. And as I'm doing it, I'm eating an entire box of Ho-Hos, or an entire bag of chips, or an entire large pizza plus more. You know, I would drink 1.5 gallons, 2 gallons of milk, whole milk a day. I was consuming everything. I would consume everything. I couldn't sleep in the bed. I went years without sleeping in a bed. Years without sleeping in a bed. Why? Well, first of all, if I was in the bed, and I needed to get up to use the restroom or something like that, I couldn't get up. I had to have my kids come and help me. Matter of fact, I'll tell you this, one of my most guilty feelings that I have is that my children had to suffer the consequences of me being that way. What do I mean? Well, I mean, my daughter mostly, because my son was still pretty young, but my daughter mostly, she basically had to be a mother to me. Nina worked, my wife worked, because I couldn't. My daughter had to bring me my, thousands of calories of food a day that I demanded. She had to help me up, help me down, put my socks on, put my shoes on. It's no way for her to live. I robbed her of a childhood because of that. But I hadn't slept in the bed for years, and I had a chair, a recliner, a motorized recliner that would lift me up, and I would walk across, be able to use the bathroom just right across the hallway and back. And I only really left the house once a week at the end, and that was to go to church. I can't believe this, and it's hard to believe, but I was a pastor at the time, and I would still go and preach every week. And then at night, while everybody's asleep, I would Google how to unalive myself. What's the best way? Poison, whatever. I knew that I was better off dead for my family. I didn't want them to continue to suffer because of me. My wife, I was always so mad and angry and screaming and yelling. Why? Because I was miserable and I wanted everybody else to be miserable with me. I was lost in a world that very few people could understand. Every day that I woke up was actually a miracle. I would stay up for days because I was afraid to go to sleep. I was afraid I wasn't going to wake up, which is odd because it's kind of what I wanted. It kind of reminds me of, they say that from the people that have jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge to commit suicide, there's been people that have survived that. And out of the people that survived that, 100% of those people said that as soon as they let go, they realized they wanted to live and they regretted it. That's pretty wild. But it was a miracle every day I woke up, and I can tell you this, just to walk across the hallway, which is about 15 feet, if that, felt like a marathon every single time. I couldn't drive. I didn't drive for years. Why? Because I couldn't fit behind the wheel of the car. I weighed 820 pounds. I was a slob. I was mad. I was angry. And I wanted to die. This story isn't just about weight loss. It's about redemption. It's about getting back what God predestined me to be. This is about beating death a second time. If God doesn't have something serious for my life, I have no idea what's going on. People should not have these chances over and over. I was suffocating. My body was literally suffocating me to death. I wouldn't go to the doctor. I hadn't been to the doctor in years. Why? Because what are they going to tell me? They're going to say what I already know they're going to say. You're morbidly obese. You're overweight. You need to lose weight. You're going to die. Why did I need a doctor to tell me what I already knew? I remember one of the things that really broke my heart. It's one of the reasons I stopped going into public was I was in a store one time with my wife. I remember where we were even. And I remember a child looked at his mom, pointed at me, and said, "Look at that fat man." You know, he's right. Look at that fat man. What am I going to say? He's right. People stared. People mocked me. Some people pitied me, and I did not want it. Inside of me was a fire that had long been extinguished because I was, so in 2016, I had an ulcer from consuming so much aspirin because I thought that was going to help my heart, and so much ibuprofen because my body hurt so bad, just in pain. And I had an ulcer, and it ate through my stomach and into an artery, and I bled and I bled and I bled, and I didn't know I was bleeding. I just felt sick. I bled, and then early in the morning, my wife had tried to talk me into going to the hospital for hours, over a day. And I wasn't going to go. She went to work, and I remember I got up to go use the bathroom, and I couldn't. I was passing out on my feet. Finally, I made it back to the chair, and I called for Jesse, my daughter, and I said, "Jesse, you got to call the ambulance right now. I'm dying. Something's wrong with me. I know I'm dying." And they came, and they couldn't get me out of the room. They couldn't get me out of the room. They couldn't bring a gurney in. They had to bring this chair in. They put me in his chair. It took them forever to get me out. And they got me to the ambulance. And I remember they said, "What hospital do you want to go to?" And I said this name of this hospital, and they said, "No." They're like, "If you want to live, you need to go to this hospital now." I didn't understand how bad it was. And so we got there, and my wife met us there, and the doctor came in and said, "Hey, we're trying to free up a room in ICU for you." I was like, "ICU? What do you mean?" He looks at me and goes, "Mr. Gates, apparently you don't understand. You're dying right now." So anyway, I go to ICU. They telling me this is wild. They say, there's two choices. You can die, or you can get this surgery done where we're going to go in and repair this. But if we go in and repair this, we're going to have to put you on a ventilator. We're going to have to stop your heart. Then we're going to have to restart it. I don't understand why all that, but I remember they then said, "The problem, Derek, is that we don't know if you're going to make it off the ventilator. There's a real, I think they gave me like an 80% chance, it might even be more, that you might be a vegetable for the rest of your life." I remember church people are in there, and they're fighting. There's some of my church people are like, "No, we're just gonna have faith that God's gonna heal him," and other people are like, "Oh, you're gonna kill him that way," and all these different things. And then I just had this peace that came over me that it was gonna be okay. I was gonna have the surgery, and it was gonna be okay. And so I did, and I made it out. And I remember they said, "Derek, it's amazing because you actually had the heart of an athlete. We've checked your heart. There's nothing wrong with your heart." So, in my mind, I'm thinking, so from drug addiction, where I was doing, $1,000, sometimes $2,000 worth of cocaine and meth a day for years, to being over 800 pounds on this body, and my heart is the heart of an athlete. That's mind blowing, right? But that's only God could do that. But here's what happened: was I woke up in that hospital room after this successful surgery, but I knew that I was dying still. I might not be dying from this bleed, which, by the way, my hemoglobin, for those that know, my hemoglobin is supposed to be up over 20 for a male, especially a male my size. Supposed to be well over 20, and I was below a 2. So I was dying. There's no blood left in my body. And so for me to survive just what had happened was a miracle. What happened, in the big picture here, is that I realized that I wanted to live. I wanted to live. I wanted to be with my family. I wanted to be with my wife. I wanted to see grandkids. I wanted to grow old. I wanted to do what, God had purpose for my life, whatever that might be. I wanted that. So it started my journey. A lot of people, they don't like this. They say that, having a weight loss surgery is the easy way out, all these different things. Look, it was not easy. I can tell you that. It was not easy. So in 2016, I had what's called a gastric sleeve. And for those that don't know, it's not, they used to do this thing called stapling. They'd staple your stomach, or they go in and they put something in your stomach to fill it up. And no, what I actually got done was they cut out 98% of my stomach and left me with this tiny little pocket they call a sleeve. That's where that comes from. And that's what I had done. And then I started a journey to where I am today. That's 2016. I've lost like 4 Backstreet Boys now. I've lost 600 pounds. I have lost 600 pounds. The wild thing is you don't lose 600 pounds from the surgery. That it just really, you only lose 50 to maybe 100 pounds is what they tell you you're going to lose. But I wanted to take this gift that I was given, and I wanted to use it to the best of what it could be done. And I used it as a launching pad for me to take my health back. And so here we are. This is 2025, and I can't believe it. Do you know what size of pants I wore? 68 inch. That was 68 inch pants. That you can't even. It was hard for me to even find pants that big. A pair of pants, the most basic kind of jeans that you could get, and it's in a 68, cost me over $100. That's why I wore a lot of sweatpants. You could stretch those out. I'm proud to say that today, as I sit here and I do this video, I'm wearing a size 36 waist pants. I never even thought I would get here. There's no magic pill. There's no magic diet. I had to fight pound by pound to get to where I'm at today. There were relapses that looked like a box of Ho-Hos or a candy bar here and there, but the relapses became further and further and further apart. There were moments that I cried. There's moments that I tried to give up. There's moments that I wondered if God was even still in this. But at the end of the day, God smiled upon me and I moved forward. So why am I sharing this with you? Why do you want to know? I don't know that you do want to know. I'm sharing it because this is what I believe. I believe if I can do this, that anyone can do it. I believe that there's a ton of people that are watching this out there that were right where I was, that don't think that they have anything left to give, that they will never lose the weight, that they'll never get this thing accomplished. And I am living proof that this can work. If God can do it for me, He can do it for you. If this will work for me, it can work for you. All you have to do is say yes to getting better. Is that going to happen overnight? It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be every single day, a fight, a pound here, a pound there. You might go backwards a couple pounds, but the bottom line is that you will cross the finish line if you continue to fight. You just have to decide that you will not quit. Here's one of the things that I tell people is that nothing tastes as good as thin. Nothing tastes as good as being in shape. Nothing tastes as good as being able to walk to the parking lot and get in my car, be able to drive because I can fit behind the wheel and not be out of breath. Nothing tastes as good as me being able to go out there and climb a set of stairs and not be panicked and panting and don't know what's going to happen. You feel like you're going to have a heart attack. This is a whole new lease on life. I was going to die, but here I am. You know, one of the things that's interesting is that when I had this surgery done in 2016, I was the biggest one that they had ever done. I'm not saying the biggest one in the world. I'm saying that in Kansas City, I was the biggest one at the time that they had ever done. There was a really good chance that I would not make it through the surgery, just like when I had the stomach bleed. But I did. A matter of fact, they had 3 surgeons in the room. They had a top cardiologist in the world that was in there, just in case I died on the table. But guess what? Not only did I succeed, not only did I come through it, but I didn't have any complications. I've never had a complication, not once, from this. It gave me a lease on life. This is what I regret. I regret not doing this 10 years sooner. That's what I regret. So I'm literally less than half the man I used to be. That's the crazy thing. And now I have hope. Now I have hope that I can do things again. I can go, you know, here's an amazing thing is just 2 weeks ago, for the first time since I was in my early 20s, I was able to ride a roller coaster. Not only did I ride one, I rode them all. It was so fun. I was so excited to be able to do it. I'm going to go back so I can do it again. I never thought that I would ever be able to do those types of things again. If I can do it, you can do it. You just need faith. You just need hope. And if you need hope, just look at me. If this doesn't give you hope, then I don't know what will. If I can do it, you can do it. If you're on a journey, if you need help, I want you to drop a comment below. I want to come in, read your comment, and I want to get behind you. I want to see your journey. I want to be there for you. I want to cheer you on like the champion I know that you are. If you need advice, don't be afraid to reach out. Reach out to me. I will help you with whatever I can do. And remember, you can be somebody's hope today. You can be somebody who they look to 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, and look at your life and see how much you have lost. And people will be like, if they can do it, I can do it. Guys, let's keep fighting together. Let's keep going down this road. Let's see how much better we can make our lives. I know that if I run this race, God's going to run it with me, and I will cross the finish line. And I believe that you can do it too. Guys, if this has inspired you, I want you to leave that comment. I want you to press the subscribe button. I want you to follow the journey, because I'm not done. I'm just getting started. I can't wait to see where I'm at in 5 years. And I hope that you're on that journey with me. And I want to be on your journey with you. Guys, peace out and shalom.